What happened to the Southern Democrats? It's almost like they disappeared. In 1996, Bill Clinton won states in the Deep South. Up to the late and early 10s, Democrats often controlled or at least had healthy numbers in some state legislatures like Alabama, and were pretty 50-50 at the federal level. What happened to the moderate Southern Democrats? Surely there must have been some sense of loyalty to their old party, right? I am talking about recent times, largely after the Southern strategy. Here are some examples. United States House of Representatives elections in Alabama. Alabama House of Representatives election. United States House of Representatives elections in Arkansas. House of Representatives elections, 2010. United States House of Representatives elections in Mississippi. X200B. X200B. Most of the older moderate conservative Southern Dems, who had Democratic ties due to the New Deal, died off by their kids, who were baby boomers with no ties to the New Deal, were mostly repubs from the start. As those older Southern Dems died off, the moderate Democratic state legislators retired, were defeated, or switched parties. Fox News went on the air in 1996. Newt Gingrich was still in Congress. He took his destructive brand of political theater into many homes. That's a huge reason there are none from that point forward. Except for folks myself. I used to lean Republican until 2016. Now, I am a registered Democrat. I am sure my family is among the few white families in this county that vote Democrat. That's depressing. They did. Democrats became associated with civil rights, and racists flocked to the Republican Party. Democratic pro-union working class support wasn't enough to hold them there, and they more or less went the way of the dodo. I haven't disappeared. I live in the metro Atlanta area, and it's pretty blue around here. So in the post-World War II era, the Democrats were the party of segregationists. Dixiecrats like Wallace Thurmond have a relatively comfy place within the Democratic Party until the Democrats started to support civil rights movements in the 60s. Dixiecrats began to leave the party during this period and swapped over to the Republicans. While at the same time, the Republicans began to implement the Southern strategy. This basically destroyed all Southern support the Democrats had even till this day. The die-hard Dixiecrats died off or went Republican. The Strom-Thurmond types. They are coming back, in the form of college-educated suburbanites. Just compare how Jimmy Carter won Georgia versus how Biden won it to see how the coalition has changed. They vote Republican now. My mom supported Bill but flipped by the time Obama was up. She started listening to a lot of talk radio and now thinks all the country's problems are because of the Dems. Ask her for policies she likes. She is clearly Dem still but currently won't vote for Biden because of Kamala. Southern Democrats are anything but moderate. Those are the people that seceded from the Union in the Civil War and brought you Jim Crow laws. They call themselves Republicans today after they again left the Democratic Party when the Civil Rights Act was passed. The Southern strategy developed by Pat Buchanan and first implemented by Nixon is the biggest factor. The final nail in the coffin was the move to all races being an extension of national politics. Starting in the early 90s and bolstered by talk radio and 24-hour news channels. The winnable seats for moderate Southern Democrats dwindled away by the early 2000s. Research the Southern strategy. The entire country flipped parties and Democrats have been losing there ever since. Clinton was an anomaly, both because he was pro-business and because he was Southern. That said, the Southern strategy is based on racism. which sooner or later will stop working. Even there, if only because of demographic changes. The districts were gerrymandered so badly that it is too hard for Democrats to win. It's really easy to figure out where they went. Just look at which party waves the Confederate flag and says that it is part of their ancestry. Gerrymandering black neighborhoods, removing polling locations in black neighborhoods, making harder for black people to vote, etc., etc. While part of it was the parties essentially swapping ideologies, the image you've chosen for your thumbnail is really appropriate. Especially today, Democrats have been gerrymandered out of power in the South. They still exist, but are being denied representation. The fossil fuel industry's dark money think tanks happen. They do a lot more than just manufacture pseudoscience that says climate change is a hoax, you know. They've been gerrymandered into not having a controlling interest of the state. While Democrats are out there trying to get people to vote for them by doing the right thing, Republicans are changing the maps so that they can control more of the votes as they come in. 9/11 happened. That changed everything in this country and aligned most authoritarian groups in the U.S. together under the banner of the Republican Party, co-opted by the evangelical Christian churches. The quiet deal the GOP has made. My anecdotal experience is the giant sucking sound resonated with a lot of working class during the Clinton years. Even though NAFTA was negotiated by Bush, it was finalized Clinton, and a lot of people blame the Dems for NAFTA and felt betrayed by the Dems. The Southern abandonment of Democrats at the state and local level simply took longer than it did for federal races. The state-local parties were able to distance themselves from the national party for a while. And there was also still some belief that their policies were good on a state-local level but not on a national level, which ties into the whole states' rights thing as well. The answer here is still basically the Southern strategy and the realignment that happened. Bill Clinton was from Arkansas. Being local is a strong multiplier for conservatives, let alone Southern conservatives, when it comes to electing anybody for anything. Looks like in the 2008 HOAR election, District 2 won blue with less than 1 margin and District 5 won blue with 4 margin. In 2010, District 2 was turned red with a margin of 2 of the vote. District 5. The year prior to the 2010 election, the incumbent changed parties and he still lost in a landslide. There were no Dem candidates for Alabama's HOAR District 5 in 2010. Virginia has gone blue. Georgia has given us blue elected officials. I dispute the premise. 2010 was after Obama's election. Typically you see a shift toward the opposing party in the midterm after a first-term president's election, e.g. 2018's blue wave. Top that off with the fact that it was a black Democrat. 2010 was basically the final nail in the coffin for the Dixiecrats. Any remaining Southern white Democrat flipped once a black man was elected. Bill Clinton did not give a sense of pride to the Christian Democrat or your everyday Southern voter. They were embarrassed and disgusted by him. Then after 8 years of George Bush, I believe Obama helped swing the pendulum almost completely the other way. White Southern Democrats ran to the Republican Party, calling themselves the Christian right. They died out. The remaining Southern Democrats who hadn't flipped Republican due to the civil rights movement were by and large from the New Deal era. They were much older than average, and they just ended up dying off. If they or their descendants hadn't already changed parties. In some online political communities, their descendants who inherited their party were called ancestral Democrats.